Hey guys, it's Core Ross and welcome to the future of Siege. This is my speculation series where we have a look at the future of Rainbow Six Siege and have some fun speculating. And if you want to have some fun as well, then speculate in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think of the game and the future. And if you haven't figured it out already, this is my way of turning the negativity in my comments into a series that I'm really enjoying having fun making. And I hope you guys are enjoying actually watching as well. And if you are, then like and subscribe, which is I think the first time I've ever said that in a video. But I'm going to do that just now because this series has been a lot of fun to actually make. But anyway, this episode is all about, has the content reduced in Rainbow Six Siege over the years to where we currently are with the game? And of course, my perspective on this is going to be from a content creator who started a full-time job on YouTube just based on Siege way back when this game launched. This was the Steam numbers at the time when I went full-time. Now, we're also going to be coming, of course, from my perspective as a player as well. And things have changed dramatically over the years. So to give you a quick rundown of my first year of Rainbow Six Siege, of course I was covering the new seasons and the new operators and all that. And this is how the content went back then. It was 2 new operators, a new map, then 3 months of absolutely nothing until the next season launched. So back then I had to do speculation videos, I had to cover leaks, I had to just fill the channel up with some crappy gameplay or that I was doing and stuff like that, just to kind of keep the YouTube channel ticking over between those gaps every season. And that leads us into what I think is going to be the best representation of the different content we've been getting, and also how Ubisoft's kind of approach to it has changed, what they now see as more important and what is less important, and also I think what the player base is buying into. So of course, year 1 roadmap, we had 8 new operators as a big selling point, 4 new maps and new weapons. So that was 2 operators every 3 months, it was 1 map every 3 months, and it was about 5 to 7 new weapons every 3 months as well. And then the more minor selling points was the plus section of the roadmap, which said new game modes, which actually they failed to deliver in year 1. New cosmetics, we got headgears in season 2. And exclusive seasonal content and events. Now back then there was no events like we have now, so I'm actually not sure what they were relating to here. But of course, exclusive content was just like seasonal skins for every season. That was pretty much it. But like I say, back in year 1, it was new content, 3 months of nothing, new content, 3 months of nothing, new content. However, in year 2, we did get a mid-season injection of new content, which was awesome. It meant 1.5 months between content drops, which was so freaking good. And this was a very good year, I would say. We got 8 new operators, 4 new maps, new weapons again, and in the plus section we had new features and improvements. And that ended up actually being an understatement because we had one of the seasons get deleted so that Operation Health could actually take place. And also mid-season reinforcements were cancelled because the Pro League got upset that the meta was changing mid-season. So they actually pulled that as well. So that really sucked for me. That was when Operation Health happened and the mid-seasons were cancelled. That was actually 6 months of no content. It was a terrible time for my channel. And then of course in the plus section as well, we have new cosmetics, exclusive seasonal content and events. Yet again, events were nothing like what we have now, and a full year of Pro League was brought in. So before that, it was just kind of little bits of Pro League. So that was the selling points of year 2. And to be honest, year 2 looked like an absolutely brilliant year when we got this roadmap. Of course, it did get messed up with Operation Health and other stuff, and we ended up getting 2 seasons with 3 operators in them because of the Operation Health deleting one of the seasons. And like I say, the mid-season reinforcements being cancelled because of the Pro League concerns was, I would say, a weak move by Ubisoft back then. Unfortunately, I don't think it was the right choice to do, but I can understand why they did it, but it sucked. Then moving on to year 3, we've got a big change in what is being promoted as the selling points here. It's a far simpler looking roadmap. Instead, we have Operation Chimera with the Outbreak event, our very first event, and still currently a very unique event because of course it's cooperative, whereas everything else has been competitive when it comes to events. But we got in season 2 a new map, then a reworked map, then a new map, but it is 2 new operators every season, and again we have new weapons every season as well. And I would say this is when Rainbow Six Siege actually became properly successful because it had one of its highest peaks with Chimera, which is crazy to think that a cooperative PvE element actually shot a PvP game up to be successful. That's a weird thing, but that is how it happened for Siege. But certainly you do see how they're marketing it differently. They're selling the roadmap differently, and they're taking away stuff that would eventually disappear in the future. So I do wonder at this point, that they already know that the new weapons were not going to be sustainable in the future. But anyway, that leads us on to year 4, and I think this is the most content Rainbow Six Siege has ever got. So we got 2 operators every season, but we only got new weapons in the first season, along with a new map, but every season after that was reused weapons and reworked map. But also every season now came with a main event. Now these main events to me are like some of the best content this game's ever brought in, because sometimes the events are not that good, but sometimes they are standout, like Doctor's Curse. Like, the content they bring in is just so freaking good. And of course I'm a bit, I would love it if just somehow we could have a player base big enough that all the events could just stay on all the time and I could just jump into any of them and play them whenever I want. But I also do like the fact that they are limited. It is good to see them now actually returning every so often. But there is another thing to mention about this roadmap, and it is the return of operator balancing for the mid-season. We actually bring back not quite the reinforcements of the past, but we bring in kind of game-changing changes in the middle of the season. Now, of course, some people hate the changes, some people love them, and we do sometimes get operator reworks mid-season as well now, which is good to have that back. So it's very good not to see the Pro League actually controlling that anymore. Thankfully, the developers have wisened up to it and just gone, you know what, we're going to do it anyway, and I love that. And that's honestly the reason I continue to play and love Siege, is because it constantly evolves. It is always changing, and it means the way I play the game is always changing. Like, I will switch every season to a different operator because of how they balance the game, how they change things up, and I might do that for the mid-season as well, and that keeps it fresh for me. Now, of course, I avoid burnout with Siege by just taking a break every so often, where I will disappear off and not play it for like a month and then come back to it later. But from a content creator's point of view, year 4 was one of the best years. We had 2 new operators and a new map to cover at the start of the season. Then we had a mid-season event. We also had, of course, the operator balancing coming back. So all of that would take place in that 3 months, and that was pretty awesome. It meant I had a good chunk of stuff to actually check out. But it would still potentially leave like a month or 2 of no content, depending on when events dropped and things like that. Now, moving on to year 5, of course, we see monetization of the game increase. We've seen this with the previous year as well with paid packs, and it was in the previous year I made a video where I was very concerned about the monetization of the game, and it definitely came to fruition. We got, like, literally in the roadmap, we've got battle passes as selling points in the roadmap for the year. We also have reworks for every single season when it came to maps. We got 2 operators in the first 2 seasons, and then single operators for season 3 and 4. And we continued on with our big main event and arcade playlists, although the arcade playlists I think were very disappointing. And as a content creator, of course, I was very worried about going down to 1 operator per season, but also happy about it because the devs are still aiming for 100 operators in total. So because they've gone in half the amount of operators they're releasing per year, it means the game will actually go on for double the amount of years if they continue, of course, to do it all the way to 100, which still seems to be their plan, 100 operators in total, which means my channel might still be relevant in double the time where it would have potentially died off far sooner. But anyway, that brings us to year 6, the current year. This is actually a very interesting one to look at, I think, because of course we went down to 1 operator for every season. We've got reworked maps every season. We've got the events and the arcade playlists. You can see that they say they have 2 arcade playlists per season as well. But also what's nice is the battle pass has gone off the roadmap. It's no longer a selling point, and instead it's about core gameplay features. So that's quite nice actually. And so far for year 6, when it comes to a content creator, for me, it's been brilliant. I've been able to cover a major bit of content every 2 to 3 weeks. I've also been able to check out experimental changes on the test server like the Nuke rework. Like, that's not actually coming out, it's not going to happen. But the fact that that would have previously been a behind closed doors testing session they would have been doing by themselves, and I wouldn't have been able to cover it whatsoever. So being able to actually cover that from the test server, even if no one's playing the test server, the fact that I can still jump in and actually test it out and play around with it is so freaking cool. So the amount of content I've been able to create, and this is probably why I haven't seen a drop in views on my channel like others have seen for Siege content creators, because there is, to me, a lot more opportunities now to make interesting content that I wouldn't previously have been able to cover. But I think we can look at some of this content and be a bit critical of it as well. So of course, having all reworked maps for the entire year, that's definitely, I would say, a misstep. But I understand why they're doing it. They're attempting to improve the game, and I'm totally behind that. Like, I don't think some of the reworks work very well, but I love the fact that they're trying to actually improve things. And of course, they're human, they're going to fail at that sometimes, but I'd rather they do try than not at all. But I also do want to see fresh content too. So this probably should have been 50-50 between reworks and new maps, but I get their choice here. And of course, the events, the arcade playlists, and the mid-season balancing means that the rest of the season for me is filled up with a ton of content that I can cover, so that is awesome as well. But going down to one operator sucks, but it makes my channel potentially last longer. And I would say, and this might be controversial, I think that one operator per season has seen a massive uptick in quality of operators. It used to be that we get 2 operators per season. Of course, back in year 2, we actually got 3 operators in some of the seasons, but they would launch overpowered, far too good, and it would take them 6 months, a year, or even potentially sometimes longer with some cases to actually make those operators fair. Because people, of course, loved Ela. She was an absolute killer when she came out. She was insanely good. And people, when that operator got nerfed, were really angry because they said it took away the fun. But the problem is, you've got to look at it from both points of view. You've also got the people who are dying to those Ela players, not because they are skilled at playing Ela, but just because that character is insanely good when she comes out. And that means that they're having fun, but the people that are killing, they're not having fun at all. But not to mention, operators were also released outright broken with game-breaking issues with them. And here's an example of Mira.
Oh, fuck no.
What the fuck?
Oh, well, this game's bugged. I thought maybe I can mail it. No fucking way. Well, as soon as Reddit finds that out, this game's fucked. Jesus Christ.
Now, since we've gone down to 1 operator per season, to me, the quality has actually gone up. And that to me is something that I would like to remain. And if I have to only get 1 operator per season for them to be balanced and come out fixed, to me, that is absolutely worth it. 1 operator per season and a balanced operator and a not broken operator, to me, is totally worth going down to 1 rather than 2, just for that quality increase. But I would say reused guns is not a great thing. Now, they have been bringing in some new guns, but just not very often. So Kali's sniper rifle and Zero's assault rifle, for instance. And we also know now from the AMA that the devs had that there's, because they let this slip, there's going to be a new gun coming this year as well on the operator Thorn. So we are going to see a new weapon on that character, whether it's season 3 or 4, we are going to see a new weapon. But I do want to talk about my dream roadmap and what I'd like to see in year 7 that I think would be better kind of content level, but still hopefully in the realm of what the developers can do with good quality. So it is simple as this: 1 operator every season, because like I say, I think they're better quality now. A new weapon every season, but I would change it up. I wouldn't actually put the new weapon onto the new operator, because something that I've heard from every content creator when it comes to going to any capture events, and just to be clear, I've gone to like 3 capture events for Rainbow Six Siege over the years. Of course, other content creators have gone to many more because they love to get wined and dined and, you know, taken care of by Ubisoft, because it is a lot of fun and you get to meet other creators. But because I'm covering the news and usually teasers come out at the same time as the capture events are going on, I usually stay home and cover it. And that would mean that when the live stream reveal happened, I would actually be watching that for the first time too. I would then immediately edit it up afterwards and release my video. So I was always a little bit late when it came to those reveals. Nowadays, thanks to COVID, amazingly, I can do this all remotely now. My capture events are all online, which means I never miss the news and I get to check out the new operators. But certainly when playing with content creators, there is a problem these days, which is there is 1 new operator, which means when you are on defense and the new operator is on attack, you're not getting any footage that's useful. Then you get onto the other team and you maybe get the new operator, you might get something useful. So half your time is kind of downtime and you're not getting anything new. So what I would do is have the new operator come in, but I would add a new weapon for one of the existing operators, who had reused weapons previously, and they would be on the opposite team. So a content creator could play on attack with, say, a new operator, then go on to defense and play the previous operator but with a new weapon. And to avoid any issues of, say, licensing or adding too many weapons into the game overall to make it kind of hard to maintain, I would make a lot of the weapons fictional. So they would still be, it still kind of look realistic. It wouldn't be like making laser guns, but it would give you something to kind of play with and be new and fresh and have a lot of fun with. So I think that would be worth the developer's time to add in one new gun every single season to an existing operator. And then I would 50-50 it between new maps and reworks, because reworks, for me, the last bunch I just haven't really enjoyed, but I love the fact they are trying to improve it. So my choice here would be to split it 50-50 with having a reworked map in the first season, because usually we have a roadmap reveal along with that season. So I wouldn't want to have too much content right there. And then on season 2, that's when we bring in a brand new map. And to me, splitting this up 50-50 would be awesome. It still gives them the opportunity to improve previous maps, but also, of course, bring in brand new content. Now, I'm sure this roadmap is not going to be to everyone's liking, and especially content creators would much prefer to have 2 operators, but I think there has been a noticeable increase in quality with one, that I am very happy to keep it as 1 operator per season. But I do think the developers have underestimated the new weapons and the selling points of those new weapons, and they should bring that back as at least 1 per season. That is the minimum it should be. And on top of that, of course, we'd have events, and we'd have return events, and we'd have arcade playlists. And always remember that before Rainbow Six Siege turned up, you had to buy map packs. It would then split the player base up between the people who bought the map packs and didn't. Whereas with Rainbow Six Siege, every single year of content you can get for free. You don't have to pay anything. Like, literally wait 2 weeks after the launch of the new operator, buy them with Renowned, and you can then go and play the new maps and everything, get the new weapons, get everything you want for free. You never have to spend any money. Of course, people spend a ton on these paid packs, battle passes, all these different cosmetics that will eventually disappear into the ether when Siege's servers are shut down in, like, whatever it's going to be, a decade or 2 or even sooner, who knows. This is free content that we're getting every single year, which is awesome to cover. But certainly, I'd love to know in the comments below what you think should come out as Year 7's roadmap. Of course, we've just had the AMA, which revealed a whole bunch of stuff, and we are getting new maps next year. We're getting a team deathmatch mode that'll be permanent for warming up, and that they have no plans whatsoever to make a Siege 2. So they're going to continue developing Siege into the future for at least the next 5 years, and potentially longer, to hit that 100 operator mark. And that's the big question. Will we actually one day get to that 100 operator mark? Because it is going to be like another 10 years until we get there at current pace. And I'm very curious if we will one day achieve it. So yeah, guys, that has been the question. Has the content reduced? And my conclusion is that it's yes and no. So if we compare it to year 1, 2, and 3, I would say there's way more content now than there was back then, for sure. Even with 2 operators, even with new guns, back then we didn't have the events, which I think are a game changer these days. Even though some of the events are not brilliant, some of them really are, like Doctor's Curse. And those things keep this game being really cool to play. I also love like the mid-season balance and being back. Potential of getting like reworked operators and stuff at mid-season is also brilliant. It just kind of changes things up, and I love that. But I think if we compare it to, say, year 4, which for me was the kind of best year for Siege content in general, it's interesting because that year we did have a lot of content. We had the events, but we also had a lot of reworked maps. We had reused weapons for 3 of the 4 seasons as well. So that wasn't a perfect year, but I think it was one of the best for content. So if we directly compare year 4 and year 6, I think year 4 does have more content than year 6. But I would argue that year 6 probably has a bit more quality in it when it comes to the operators, just because they are much more balanced and less buggy. However, I can see the downsides to that too. Content creators would probably love to see operators come out overpowered to start with, because it's far more enjoyable, it's far more exciting. You can do much more interesting videos that people are going to be more engaged with. But gameplay wise, I prefer an operator like Thunderbird and stuff like that to come in balanced, and it is just so nice to have that now instead of the old way of them always appearing OP. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching this speculation video about Rainbow Six Siege and its apparent reduction in content over the years. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.